Hi there, welcome to Through the Writer's Door. And we're in for a special treat. We're going to be talking to Mr. Patrick Kelly. He is an edgy writer. He makes you think. All of his pieces are thought-provoking, and I believe this will be an experience you will not forget. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Mr. Patrick Kelly. Welcome back. We're here with Mr. Patrick Kelly, and he is an edgy writer. You will love his works. And he's here to talk about some of his works and some of his experiences as a writer. So tell me, just who are you writing for?
I'm writing for the reader who's seeking something a little bit different, something a little off the beaten path. Even if I write horror, I may write a little double entendre or wordplay to it, something to get the reader thinking. I want to make an impression on him or her. I want to be remembered and just a notch or two above the crowd.
Yes, yes. I know that you are known for, as I said, edgy writing and making the reader think, kind of. You entertain, surely, but you make the reader think. And you've touched on a couple of subjects that maybe they were politically incorrect or they walked on the edge. Can you give us an example of some of the things you've written?
Yes, actually, though it's kind of hard to categorize the work, one of my bestsellers is a short piece I call A Way Down South in Dixie.
Yes.
And it deals with modern day slavery in South Carolina at a remote, isolated plantation that was never liberated by federal troops. And it's not in the traditional vein of horror, but it's obviously still a shocking or non-politically correct topic.
Yeah.
So I think the readers are pulled into it by the subject matter and the way it plays out and the interaction of the subjects and the people involved.
Okay.
It's really a take on being held back, and the slavery is a euphemism for that. It's allowing yourself to be bowed down and beaten under and eventually giving up and going with the crowd.
Okay, what was the inspiration for that particular piece, and why did you feel you were the one to write it?
You always hear, particularly in the workplace, this is the last plantation. This is like being a slave. They're working us like a slave today. And one day the idea just occurred to me, well, what if there were still working plantations today. And how could that be? And an explanation could be that federal troops didn't get there. And really the idea just unfolded from that. And I saw that I had a viable working plot, and I went with it. Originally I had a plot that I thought ended in sort of a cliche, and being that I like to set myself apart and be a little different, I thought about it long and hard, and I went back and I changed the ending. And the knowledgeable reader will read the story and probably be able to guess this was his original ending and this is what he added. So I'd be interested to hear feedback from some of the writers. They can always reach me at my website and make contact with me and let me know what they think, and I appreciate that feedback.
Yes, and tell me, since you mentioned the website, how can, give me some of your titles and tell me how we can reach you. How can the readers get to your works right now?
The short horror, some of my more notable titles that I'm really proud of are Away Down South in Dixie, The Fur Changers, Special Forces, and Secret Armies are the traditional short horror pieces that I have. And they're available on the electronic format at Amazon Kindle. And the other genre that I tend to write in is I have my first romance novel, which may seem a little different to people, but I didn't know I had it in me as well. I wrote it at the suggestion of an editor who thought that while I waited for the short horror to catch hold, and the market for them is so limited, and there are so many submissions out there that the outlets are flooded, and you may wait forever to get your short horror out there. He said, well, what else can you do? And I said, well, I don't know. I thought he was, at the time, originally pushing me into Dungeons and Dragons type stuff. And, what was hot at the time? K.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling. The Harry Potter series. And I didn't think I could do that. But he pointed out that romance is a constant seller, even in a down market. I sat down, I put pen to paper, and the next thing you know, I had my first full-length romance.
Wow. So like, are you telling me you're a romantic guy?
I have my moments, and it's cutting-edge romance too. There's a lot of in-depth, intense emotion and activity in the book. I think, but it also has a plot. I don't like to just write something for fluff. There's actually a storyline behind it. It's interracial, is one of the themes that I keep returning to, and it involves a blue jeans model and a race car driver, which the title of is Love at the Limit. It will also be available in print format in about 30 days.
Oh, wonderful.
Also from Amazon as well.
Okay, about 30 days. So I'd say around September 2013.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We can find some of your works in print form. All righty. And we can find, in the meantime, and I hear it's quite popular, we can find it on Amazon.com in ebook form on Kindle. Yes.
Yes, and
you're getting quite a following.
And my website also is www.patrickkelly2.com, and they can learn more about all of my titles there.
Tell us that website again.
That's www.patrickkelly2.com, and the Kelly is Kelley.
All right, thank you very much. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
And what do you think of the current publishing and distribution market and new technologies and how it affects books?
Well, publishing is an industry that's needed a lot of new technology because in many ways it's really old-fashioned. We are going to publish an essay very soon by my colleague Rachel Donadio, who describes how it can take more than a year for a publisher actually to publish a book they've already bought and have scheduled. Books are still shipped by truck across the country. It's one reason we're very careful about publication dates and on-sale dates, because we may review a book and it turns out not to be available in stores. So the new technologies are making more books available much more rapidly to many more readers. So the questions for the authors of those books will be how that rapid technology can translate into the kind of broader literary recognition they want to get. How will general readers know about them? How will readers of the New York Times Book Review, which doesn't review self-published books, learn about them? And there, my feeling is, and it's just intuition, I'm not an expert, is that a certain number of writers will come up through those processes. That's right. And attract the interest of editors. Editors at book publishing houses are always looking for talented new writers, and often talent gets overlooked. This is the story of literature for hundreds of years, is that writers of real promise can be overlooked because they're different and original in ways that editors aren't used to, or something just falls through the cracks. So this will make, the new technologies will make more books available to be read somehow. And for the select few authors, I think, that will eventually translate into more traditional publishing opportunities.
Hi there, welcome back. We're here with Mr. Patrick Kelly, and he's told us a little bit about his works, and we're having a great time talking to him. And I'd like him to define his genre. To me, it's edgy writing. It's more than science fiction or romance. What do you call your genre?
Romance and horror, short
Okay,
horror. But I think when you look at things from a perspective of what is edgy,
Yes.
it has different takes for different people. And when I use edgy to define my, say for example, horror, I don't want people to get the mindset that we're talking about rivers of blood and graphic descriptions
Yes.
of what happens to the persons involved. Edgy doesn't have to be that. To me, edgy can be something that is unexpected. It can be groundbreaking and taking you in an unexpected direction, or with an unexpected conclusion, or involving unexpected victims or participants. So it's not the cut and dried, shock them until they drop work that really gets the point across. You want them to think, you don't want them to be repulsed. And that's what I go for.
Okay.
That's what I go for. And if you put the slant on that as far as romance goes, well, what becomes edgy romance? Some people would define, as I mentioned, the interracial aspect would be edgy, but I don't think that really stands out as much today as it would have, say, in the 60s and 70s. I think what makes my romance novel edgy is not the fact that it's interracial, that's a side issue, is that it involves two people attacking, one, a physical illness or physical injury that he must overcome, and one, a bad breakup, and where they push each other to overcome their own boundaries and live life to the fullest, hence the title, Love at the Limit.
Aren't they also, for you, thought pieces that get you thinking, and they also answer the great what if question? What if this happened? How would you react? I think it also gets people thinking.
Exactly.
Your pieces, I think there's signature to that. On that note, I'd like you to talk a little bit about one of my favorites, and that's Fur Changers. Give us the pitch. Tell us what's going on.
Fur Changers is something I'm very proud of. It's told from the perspective of a cat. He was born in the wild, and he decides he wants to go and see what humans are all about. He and his brothers and sisters have often talked about them and observed them from afar in the forest with his mother, but he decides that there's nothing better than first-hand experience, and told from his perspective, he adopts a human. And interestingly, the title Fur Changers comes from their description of us. They don't understand the concept of clothing, and as they see it, when we change clothes, we're actually putting on and off different sets of fur, and he wants to see this firsthand.
Wow.
And his descriptions of what he perceives human behavior to be may shock you, and it also will make you think, because they describe something they don't understand. Say for example, the exchange of money. What does that mean or look like to a cat? And you'll have to sit there sometimes and say, what? Oh, okay, I get it. I get it.
Yes. I think it's one of your most popular stories. If you can tell me, how did you start writing? How did you get the nerve to start writing?
I actually have writing roots that go all the way back to elementary school. I think for a lark, I may have written a Christmas story or something to entertain my friends and make them laugh. And I got such a positive reaction with that. Every once in a while, another story would occur to me. And of course, as I matured, the storylines matured and they got more in depth. And I became an avid reader. I admired people like Edgar Allan Poe, Stephen King. They inspired me, and I thought, well, maybe there's a story or two in me. And whenever those unusual or what I considered outstanding ideas would come to me, I would jot them down. And you always feel out your friends and your associates, and I would pass them around, and I got remarkable feedback for it. So I've stuck with it. Now the only thing is that I've not become accustomed to the word no. So while I'm a prolific writer, I have more or less not submitted as much as I could have, and I just got tired of the traditional venue, and that's what led me to become primarily an electronic author.
Okay, and self-published.
Yes,
And as we know, the publishing industry is changing,
it is.
and authors are getting more control over their destinies and their products. And so it's a great venue if you know how to work it.
Yes, and it appears to be somewhat of the future of writing. I mean, a lot of bookstores are going under, unfortunately. I'm as I said, a book nut. I have over 2,500 titles of my own at home. But I feel good in that I'm at the ground floor of this electronic thing. And I will make my works eventually paper format as well for those who want them in the traditional bound format. Because I think that's important too, and I would hate to see the passing of the book.
What are some of the ways you're getting your words out there, your stories out there?
I have some ads on Google, and I use word of mouth and network, and I Facebook and Twitter. I think you have to do that in today's business for any product that you have. And writing is like much like a product like any other. I do the postcards and the bookmarkers and things of that nature, and then being in writers clubs such as the one you're the president of or vice president of is a big help. You network and you get to see what resources are out there and what avenues for the budding or hungry author.
Yes. Yeah, you have to be hungry.
Yes.
Don't you?
Or you'll stay hungry.
Yes, or you'll stay hungry, that's right. And how can we get in touch with you again? How can we find some of your titles
I
again?
think you can learn more about me and the titles that I have directly because there are a lot of Patrick Kelley's. Go to www.patrickkelly2.com. That's K-E-L-L-E-Y.
All right, thank you, and we're going to take a short break.
The Sunday paper was very separate from the daily. Before the Times really became a national publication, printed all over the country and available every day in the print edition, and of course particularly online, there were many subscribers who read it only on Sunday. So they would read the book review to see book coverage, whereas people more locally would see the daily paper as well, and they would end up seeing, in effect, the two reviews. And sometimes the daily critics will go out of their way to review different books from us because they sometimes have special interests as well. For instance, Janet Maslin likes to write a lot about mysteries. Now, we have a mystery columnist, Marilyn Stasio, who does a column for us every other week, but she's not reviewing all the mystery books as they come out, so there's lots of room for Janet to review separately books that we may not review at all.
Now, what do you do when there is overlap between your two departments and you're like, hated it, and then the daily critics are like, loved it, and then what do you do?
Well, actually, their reviews tend to run first, so it's the reader who will have that reaction, not us so much. Well, it just goes to show you, I think, in a very good, positive way, that book reviews are opinion journalism. And someone can write a book that one critic admires and another one dislikes, and which is the way most readers react to
Right.
books in their own individual way. And I think that's actually good. Now, where I think it's most disappointing for authors is when their book is not reviewed at all. And they wonder, well, why did someone else's book get reviewed twice when mine wasn't at all?
Right. And what do you say to those authors?
Well, what we say is, first of all, because we're working on separate tracks, we don't know what the daily critics will be reviewing. And second, often, especially with really prominent authors, readers are interested in hearing more than one opinion. And finally, the critics themselves, the daily critics, need to be able to write about the books that interest them, or the authors whose careers they've been following closely. With John Updike or Philip Roth, who has a major book come out every year or two. It's pretty hard for a daily critic not to review those major authors, and yet we know our readers want to know about those books too. So it's really it's an odd sort of logic, but it does make sense in the end, I think.
Welcome back. We've had a wonderful time talking to Mr. Kelly, and I've enjoyed everything we've talked about. Do you think you could read us a little bit of your work?
I'd be happy to. This is the introduction to A Way Down South in Dixie. A presence. There was someone moving about in the room, a shifting. He was in that curious state of mixed darkness and light that isn't quite wakefulness, yet is neither sleep. Another struggle to gather his senses. He remembered now that there had been several such episodes, a long stretch of time just like this moment. Why, he could not recall. His head ached, his body ached. The light itself was painful as it attempted to beat its way through his fluttering, uncertain eyelids. What could he last remember? Where had he been and what had he been doing? Why couldn't he shake this fuzziness? And moreover, was he really even sure he wanted to? He had a feeling that something was wrong, terribly wrong, and he was more than a little fearful to learn what it was. A soft humming. His unseen, busy companion was humming a tune, an old one he couldn't exactly place, one he had heard long ago, maybe in music class back in junior high school. The pitch, though, was unmistakable. It was a woman. He was certain of that much. From the sound of it, she was straightening up or cleaning, rearranging things. His body bore a dull, bearable yet steady pain, especially his head and his legs. He had a feeling that it might be bearable only because he was drugged with something, a painkiller for sure, maybe even a sedative as well. That was probably why it was such a difficult task to break free from the cobwebs and become fully alert. He instinctively knew he wasn't at home. So where then exactly was he? In a hospital? Probably. And the fear welled up in him stronger now, his heart picking up the pace significantly. The sudden, irrational thought checked his adrenaline rush in mid-pump. It was Stephen Foster, Camptown Races, or something like that. God, how old was that song? Was he really only dreaming all this? Sure, had to be. Maybe he was still disjointed and hazy from some terrific alcohol binge. Lord knows that would explain his throbbing head. But not his legs. And the chill returned. He began searching again, really trying this time, and once he was almost certain a memory flashed before his eyes, flying. That wasn't much help. It was what he did for a living. He was a helicopter pilot, did charter and sightseeing work in New England. If he could remember that, know it, it meant he couldn't really be that bad off, right? He knew his name, his address, his social, his entire past. The date? No, he couldn't be sure of that.
Oh, that was wonderful, wonderful. We're really going to love hearing the rest of that.
Thank you.
Readers, that is what you're going to get if you sample Mr. Kelly's work. So again, who are some of your favorite writers? What was your inspiration?
Early on, I had an affinity for Edgar Allan Poe and Stephen King, I think, which any horror author must read. And I also like a gentleman from England named James Herbert.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. So, and you'll be coming out with some new things.
Yes, yes, I'm working on some additional projects almost all the time now.
Okay, and the print format is coming up. We can look for some of your works in print in September.
Yes.
All right. That is wonderful. It's wonderful having you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and we'll look forward to seeing your existing works and the ones that are coming.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Oh, come on. All right, and action.
Well, thank you for being with us. Goodbye. That is the end of our show. I hope that you have learned something, experienced something. There's really something great coming if you sample some of his works on where? Where can we be? Where can we
Amazon
find
Kindle for the electronic format and traditional print form soon in September. www.patrickkelly2.com.
All right.
Now, speaking of new technologies, do you think the internet is shaping the way people read books and select books?
I think yes. I think in a few ways. For one, because there is so much review coverage, so many books are written about online that's where many people go, especially younger people, I think, to find out about new books. So if a popular blogger likes a certain book or interviews an author, does a podcast, more readers will find out about it. And I think particularly, again, among the young, authors are building reputations online. There are authors with their own websites now. I think it's probably more common than uncommon for a newer author to have his or her own website. So authors can connect with readers more directly that way. And also the style of writing that happens online, blogging in particular, seems to be affecting the kind of prose one sees. It's written in a more casual way. The
Conversation.
Yes, conversational. The author's voice may be more conspicuous than it was in the past. There's not as much of a kind of pretense or attempt at objectivity. So it's leading to a different kind of style of discourse, as they say, which seems to be finding its way into books.
Okay, thank you. And
Thank you.
Sam, any last thoughts for our viewing audience out there?
Oh, just keep reading. There are great writers out there. There are important books, fiction and nonfiction, and we review as many of them as we can. Don't just judge by what we say, but other publications too, including the Baltimore Sun. So just read. It's unique experience, and there's no better way to learn about yourself and the world.
Okay, thank you very much, Sam.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show today. I'm Yvonne J. Medley, and this is my latest creation, the prequel to my debut novel. It's titled Juby Stone, Saved by the Vine, and you'd love it if you get into it. Again, we hope you've enjoyed the show today. You have experienced the writers from the Life Journeys Writers Club. I hope you did truly take in the total experience of what that was like and enjoy the Life Journeys Writers Club. We're a diverse, eclectic group of writers from all genres, from professional to amateur, and we mentor. Come and see us. Everybody has a backstory, and perhaps you'd like to get yours down on a page. I'm Yvonne J. Medley, and this is Through the Writer's Door. See you next time.
Thank you.